Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 2019 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, Town of Carmel. Board members' names are in front of you on the podium. Town Code Enforcement Officer Mike Carnazza and Town Council Greg Fulchetti are with us this evening. The way we operate is we'll hear the cases. I'll swear you in to be heard, and unless you're a lawyer or counsel, we'll hear the case, and then we'll ask for input from the public if there is any. And once we close the hearing, there'll be no further input from anybody on any application. So will you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first case tonight is a holdover from last month. And it's for Ronald Vance for a variation of section 15615, seeking permission to retain existing carport which encroaches on adjoiner's property pursuant to an easement agreement with neighbor. Property is located at 51 Old Bullet Hole Road, Mahopac, New York, 10541, tax map 63-1-9.4. Good evening, Bill.
My name is William Schilling. This is number one. Case number two is intimately connected with number one. What I'd like to do with
Are you going to be speaking? Potentially,
Yes,
let me swear you in
perhaps,
just in
yes.
case. State your name and address for the record.
Ronald Vance, 51 Old Bullet Hole Road, Mahopac, New York.
Right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
So, as I was saying, because the two are so interconnected, I'd like to present them together. The relief that each are seeking is exactly the same. There's a carport that encroaches on each other's property. And so I think in the interest of saving time and simplifying the process, if it's okay with you, I'd like to just speak to them together.
Greg, I think we can do that. We'll
Absolutely
vote on
can.
each
You're going to
individually.
have to rule on them separately, of course, but you can
Right.
certainly hear the application.
Okay,
together.
sure.
The same structure.
Today, Ronald Vance is with me this evening. He is the applicant for 51 Old Bullet Hole Road. Ron is, for a long time, New York City law enforcement, still active. His tax map number is 63-1-9.4. We are in a residential zone, and his property consists of 3 acres. The subject of this application and of Mr. Simpson's application is a carport. Just so you can get acclimated, this is a photograph of the carport, and then this is a panoramic picture of the house, and then carport to the eastern side. You can see the carport has no sides, it's just a roof with some beams. The other applicant who signed a separate application is Corinne Simpson, who is at 53 Old Bullet Hole Road. His tax map number is 63-1-9.3, and his property consists of about 2.5 acres. And it's the same thing, the carport encroaches on Mr. Vance's property as well, so it's mirrored relief, and it's reciprocal. The carport was built by Mr. Vance in 2016. It is about a 2 or 3 feet at the most encroachment onto Mr. Simpson's property. I tried to blow up how minimal the encroachment is, and I did so here. If you look at the black line, that's the carport, and the little green spot right there is where Mr. Vance's carport encroaches onto Mr. Simpson's property. I believe the legal term is de minimis. It's a tiny encroachment. That encroachment has been is the subject of an easement agreement signed between Mr. Simpson and Mr. Vance, and it's been memorialized in an easement agreement that has been recorded in the Putnam County Clerk's office. It is a reflection by Mr. Simpson that it's acceptable to him. Our requested relief is simple. The setback for the side yard is 25 feet. We provide 0. We need a variance of 25 feet. And the relief, as I said, is the same for both. In support of what we're seeking, we've submitted our memo and an affidavit signed by Mr. Vance. And the facts of the matter are that Mr. Vance and his wife purchased in 1994 the survey picture tells it all. The property is extremely wide at the north end of the property and extremely narrow at the southern end of the property where it fronts on Old Bullet Hole Road. There's a lot of activity on both sides of the equation. And that's the reason why no matter what Mr. Vance would have done to try to put up a carport, there was virtually no side yard potential for compliance. My client believed that the boundary line was reflected by a series of boulders and a swale, and he believed that he was well within his line when he built the carport. He also, Mr. Vance is a man who's been before Michael many, many times for things, the pool, the addition, the deck. He's a law-abiding man. He believed that a carport with no sides, no electric, no anything, required nothing. And so the two mistakes he made was, one, he believed that the string of boulders was his boundary line, and two, that it wasn't necessary. But again, he's got a history of abiding by the town regs, visiting Mike every time he needed something, and that's why it's unusual for me to be here with him, because, as I said, he believed the carport was something that didn't need any municipal approvals. Sadly, Mrs. Vance died in 2018, and he started thinking about downsizing. And he learned for the first time when an assessor came over and it was brought to his attention that he encroached, and he immediately went to Michael. He said, "Michael, I think I've made a mistake here," and he got his advice from Mike as to what to do. There was never a violation served on him. It was never that he was caught. He brought it to the attention of the building department that he had made an error, and then he went through the routine of trying to settle it. In 2017, Mr. Simpson purchased his property, and Mr. Vance and Mr. Simpson negotiated an easement agreement where no money was passed. That's a reflection that Simpson didn't believe there was any harm to his property's value. But he did pay a price, Mr. Vance. He paid for attorney's fees, and he paid for recording costs and all that to get the easement recorded. Again, I submit to you it is a very, very small encroachment. But it is an important attribute to my client's sale. He has a one-car garage. He built the carport for his father-in-law, and his wife, who was a real estate agent, believed that the carport plus the one-car garage made his property more marketable as they proceeded towards trying or thinking about selling it. With regard to the 4 or 5 standards, as far as the neighborhood is concerned, there is no change. The easement reflects an intention on the only person affected that he's okay with the very small encroachment. There's no way to obviate the need because the property is so narrow that he couldn't put it anywhere else that would be functional. It's such a thin southerly border. It's hard for me to stand here and say it's not substantial, but when the only person who's affected signs away with it, I submit to you it's not a substantial one. And the other thing, it's such a de minimis encroachment that I don't think it constitutes a substantial application. There's no environmental impact. And finally, The hardship was not self-created. I've submitted many files to you over the years where people make good faith mistakes. And this is what happened here. He believed that the lot line was evidenced by a man-made and natural boundaries, the boulders and the swale. I want you to understand that he has a long history of compliance with the Carmel Building Department. So, and even if you do find it was self-created, I submit to you that that's not dispositive, the law says, as long as the other factors are met. Finally, I would submit to you respectfully that the only one affected by this has signed off for no consideration. And I submit to you that if the only person who could be affected thinks it's a non-issue, I would ask the board to think of that as well. So we'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Is Mr. Simpson here tonight?
He's not, but he
Okay.
signed
But
the
you're representing,
application.
so. Okay. No, I think you made a good case. It's, we judge each case on its own merits, and facts presented, I think, are justifiable. But I'll open up the board members for questions, concerns. John?
Just a question. The masonry wall, is that what you felt was the border, the property line?
No, sir, when you look over the masonry wall, you'll see a line of boulders that the builder of my house back
Mr.
in...
Vance, sorry, can you just speak into the microphone, because it's being
Yeah, in other
recorded?
words, when you look
Thank
over that rock wall that I had constructed, about a 60-foot L-shaped wall, because everything was, with the rain and the weather, everything was just...
It drops
Oh, yeah, it
off.
was coming into the
Right,
property.
so if you look beyond that wall down, maybe 10 feet down, you'll see a row of major boulders all lined up. And when my house was built, I assumed that was the property line.
Okay. So you built the masonry wall,
I had that built, yes.
and that went over...
Prevent erosion, because I
Right,
was
sure.
getting
Washout,
nothing but washout.
Your higher elevation.
Right.
Okay. When you built the wall, did you know you were off your property?
Not at all.
Okay.
And can I be clear on
Yeah.
one thing? When the town reassessed everybody's house, that's when I asked to have a survey, and I actually went to the building department, and that's when it came up about the carport. And that's when I asked for a survey. So when I got the survey done, that's when I learned from the company that I hired, Link Surveyor, that my property line was different than what I thought it was from when I bought my house in '94. That's when the whole issue came up. And it was discussed about getting the easement, and we went through the easement, and that's how it just progressed from there. But I self-reported myself to the building
Right.
department. I went there, and I self-reported myself that I built the carport. I'm finding out now that it's, like, one corner of it's on my neighbor's property.
Yeah, very small.
We can appreciate that.
No, thank you. That was it, John.
Rose?
Just for clarification, my assumption, excuse me, my assumption is that the Vance and the Simpson application, we're only talking about one carport. It's the same carport
Yes.
in both, just to clarify.
Yes.
Another thing is, we're talking about the carport, but I understand that the stone wall and the fence are also encroaching on the neighbor's property. According to the easement,
The easement just covers the
Carport.
the carport. I'm not sure about this, is the stone wall,
I don't think that's discussed either.
Mike, stone
Here.
wall wouldn't matter in this situation.
yeah, it's a natural
fixed to the
boundary,
ground.
right?
Stone walls and fences don't require permits.
Yeah.
Could it be a title issue down the road? Possibly, I'm not.
Out of possession.
or a maintenance issue? Who's going to be maintaining the fence and the shed? Well, the sheds are down, can we
No,
assume?
the sheds, as a condition of this relief we're seeking, we want the board to know, we were just waiting for the season to come. Mr. Vance will remove the sheds within the next month.
Okay, so, have you discussed, well, the
Maintenance.
carport, I'm assuming you will, the person who owns your property will take responsibility for the carport, but what about the wall and the fence?
Well, what about-
How does
what
that
about
work?
the fence?
Maintenance, if it needs maintenance?
It says hereby acknowledge that 2 sheds, a stone wall, and a corner of the carport belong to him. Encroach on both. Encroach on the premises described in Schedule B and hereby acknowledges no claim. And then Whereas several structures belonging to Vance are outside the property line on land belonging to Simpson, to wit, 2 sheds, a stone wall, and a corner of his carport, parking area, and fence.
Yeah, I think the fence and the stone wall, as I understand it, are not in need of any maintenance, and I'm not sure is that on your property, do you know, or?
The fence?
Yeah,
Part of it's on mine, and then again, part of it's on his.
yeah.
Vinyl fence.
When you,
I'm not sure that's a zoning issue. I think as Greg or Mike, I heard him say, it might be a title issue as far as maintenance, but we don't think there's any need to maintain the fence or the stone wall.
rock wall.
Rock wall.
So that's not a concern at all? the
Unless it's
maintenance on
something
it?
that would have required a permit, which the natural stone wall wouldn't, and the fence under a certain height would not. It may be like an out-of-possession issue when it comes time to move the properties, but that's something, to sell the properties or convey them, but that's something the title company will deal with, and if there's got to be a different boundary line agreement or remove a fence or, stone wall, I can't imagine, but the fence might have some issue with limits of possession. But it's nothing that I would think that this board would have.
That would be
concern
carried
with.
into
As long
the
as it's not a
deed.
permitted, an improvement that requires a permit.
Okay.
It would be carried into the deed that is going to go with the new owner.
Which, the easement?
Right.
Yeah, it runs with the land, yeah.
All right, Phil?
Okay.
Anything? You done?
Yep.
Was there a variance for the pool?
I wasn't told I needed one. I filed a permit for the pool, I just didn't get the final inspection on it.
According to the survey, it looks like there's 12 and a half feet between the pool and the property line.
We,
Only 10? Okay.
There you go.
But we're looking for 25 here.
Carport.
Okay. All right. Nothing further. Thanks.
Bill?
No questions.
Bill?
You answered the one I had, so no questions.
All right, anybody in the public wish to speak on this application? Okay, I'll look for a motion to close the hearing on this one.
Motion to close.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next application.
Thank you.
Which we just heard. Phil, just stay up so we can formalize it.
oh, sure.
For application number 2 is Corinne Simpson for variation of section 156.15, seeking permission to retain portion of neighbor's existing carport within the easement granted, which is on the property line. Property is located 53 Old Bull Hole Road, Mahopac, New York, 10541, tax map 63-1-9.3. And I don't need to swear you in, so we heard the case as part of this, we just need to formalize it. So are there any questions on
No
this
questions.
application from the board members?
None.
No.
Is there any input from the public on this application? All right, I'll look for a motion to close the hearing on this
So moved.
application. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Good night. All right, application number 3 this evening. Is Saturnino Peter de Jesus for variation of section 156.15, seeking permission to retain existing shed. Property is located at 129 Fairmount Road, Mahopac, New York, 10541, tax map 65.14-1-31. And you are?
Saturnino de Jesus,
And what's your address?
129 Fairmount Road.
And raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
All right, bring us through what relief you're seeking.
Okay, I'm seeking a variance for an existing shed, tool shed, that was on the property when I bought the property in '96. It's an 8 by 12 cinder block construction, and like I said, it's been there since I bought the house.
And they never picked it up in title search when you
No.
bought the house?
No.
Okay, yeah, I was out there the other day, it's fixed to the ground and pretty solid, but it could use a little help with the wood and whatnot, but, I mean, cinder block's not going anywhere. So in this, were you trying to sell the house, is that how this came up, or?
No, I received a notice in the mail from
Okay.
the town, and
That you were in violation?
that I was in violation.
Okay. Is there any property you can buy to try to bring it into conformity?
No, no.
yeah, you're landlocked over there.
Yes, it's been, like I said, it's been there since I've been there, it's 23 years.
All right, and you
I've
talk
never
to your
had a
neighbors on
problem.
both sides? No,
Never had a
no
problem
issues,
with the
concerns?
neighbors. Yes, never had a problem with the neighbors.
And actually, their shed on the right is not far off, but,
No problem with me.
okay. Yeah, like I said, I mean, if this needed to be repaired at that time, you'd have to, I know, Rose, you like to throw that caveat in there, to, bring it into
What do you
conformity.
mean repair?
If it needs to be, repaced, actually.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because repaired is
The
difficult.
repair is different, you're right.
You
Wrong
don't need
choice
a
of
permit
words,
to
but-
repair anything. I mean, a shed like that.
Okay, any input from the board?
No questions.
No question.
Bill?
No questions, thank you.
Rose?
Yes, I have one. On the opposite side, you have a fence. Is that yours or is that your neighbor's?
No, that's my neighbor's.
That's your neighbor's?
Yes.
Because it seems to be falling down.
Yeah, no, that's not mine.
That's not yours, okay. No other questions?
John?
What do you store in the shed?
Just tools. Tools, gardening equipment, that's all.
Is there electric there?
There is electric, but I don't use it. It's hooked up for electric, but I don't use it.
So the electric runs underground?
Underground, yes.
And there's a concrete slab inside that shed?
Yes, concrete slab.
No questions, John.
All right, is there any input or questions from the public on this application? I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Okay, good night.
All right, application number 4, John Abate for variation of section 15615, seeking permission to build two-car detached garage. The property is located at 18 Rose Drive, Mahopac, New York, 10541, tax map 865-1-41. Willie, you're representing?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm representing Mr. Abate, who happened to be with us in the audience. If we need him for any answers, he will be coming up.
All right, state your name and address for the record.
William Besharat, 266 Sheer Hill Road, Mayapack.
Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I
So
do.
help you God.
I do.
Thank you. All right,
Just
Bernice,
a real
do it.
quick question. Did you get that survey?
Yes, I did. We have copies over here.
We had an old survey, and I just wanted to make sure the numbers, it was old.
Okay.
What we're proposing is a detached garage. This house does not have a garage, and we have a need for it. The location that we chose for this garage to be at the end of the driveway, basically, we need to extend, we'll extend the driveway because of the deck location in the house, whatever. This is the really most appropriate location for the garage. Any other place will not really serve the purpose. And if we put it in the front, it will be very intrusive on the neighborhood and what have you. It'll be overpowering. If I put it to the right, away that way, it will need a variance. It will block the view of the backyard, the kitchen, and the bedroom, whatever. That will overpower the house itself. The garage, as we're proposing it, at around 5 feet from the property line, give or take. If we have to go a foot or two more away from the property line, we have no objection to that. We chose that location. It's the easiest accessibility due to the existing driveway there, and we just extended it slightly to the edge of the garage. As you see, the property itself, there's no other properties available for us to purchase and make this go away. I don't think there's appropriate location for it to be located without a variance. Where we locate it will not create a hardship on anybody in the neighborhood. It will be like set back away, you don't even see it, so it will not alter the characteristics of the neighborhood. The garage, actually, we have a little bit higher ceiling because we may have the need for a handicap van to park in there down the road. Mr. Abate's son was involved in a very serious car accident a few years back, and, he's slightly physically handicapped.
All right, the only question I have is, you got 5 feet, it's pretty extreme. It looks like you have room to move this thing inboard. I mean, it would still work, it would still work with the line of the house. The driveway wouldn't be added too much more to it, so, and it sounds like you mentioned you would be able to anyway, so.
Yeah, we can move it a couple more feet away from the
Bringing this
property
in a
line.
few more feet, I think that would make everyone happy.
Let's say
here.
we go to 8 feet from the property line.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yes,
Have
we
you spoken
are
to the
more than-
neighbors on the right-hand side?
Did you
And they have no concern or issue?
I have kind of advised, I always advise my clients to speak to the neighbors. It's better to hear directly from you than just receive the letter in the mail. It's more personal. And as he indicated, he did speak with them and they had no objection to it.
Okay. Before we amend the application with that change, we'll go through the board members, see if they have any questions, concerns.
No
John?
questions.
Rose?
Willie, are you planning to have any screening put up on the side?
There is existing row of shrubs that very mature and there's no reason for any more than that.
Okay, there's no reason for you to take those down?
No, absolutely not. As a matter of
Okay,
fact, they
that's
serve a
fine.
purpose and they are well maintained by both neighbors.
Okay, as long as the screening stays up,
It's a nice hedge there, you could see.
right.
No questions, thank you.
No questions.
No questions, Will.
All right, any input from the public on this application? Well, before we close it, John, can you do me a favor and grab the file behind you? Or Willie, since you're up?
Since you're there.
So how far are you moving it over?
We're gonna move it 8 feet.
So 3 more feet.
And how far will it be from the house, Willie?
You want to see the new survey, Mike? 'Cause you got-
How far is it gonna be from the house at that point?
It's still 30 feet in the same location, just gonna move
30
away
feet
from
off
the
the
property
back.
How far will it be from the house, though?
30 feet.
Good, okay. Yeah, please.
So we're changing it to 8 feet provided and a variance of 12 feet required. Willie, just initial this, please. Greg, is it okay with the red pen?
Correct. Perfect.
Yeah, it can't be in black. Just kidding. Thank you.
All right, there's no input from the public on this application. I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, Willie.
Thank you very much, have a nice evening.
Same to you.
Could be his.
All right, next application tonight is number 4, or number 5, James
No, it's
Luke.
his.
Good evening.
Good evening, guys. You
I'm Daniel E. Garay Jr., I'm the contractor.
Okay, what's your address?
My address, 8 Apple Summit Lane, LaGrangeville, New York.
Okay, and you're gonna be speaking?
Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Luke,
yes,
my old science teacher?
yes.
How are you?
Mike Luke, is the son of the applicants.
Can you state your name and address again for the record? I'm sorry.
Yes, Mike Luke, at 16 Van Wyck Drive in Poughkeepsie, New York.
All right, well, you guys both raise your right hand if you're both gonna be speaking. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Bring us through it. I guess you're the builder?
Yes, so what's existing out at the house is a concrete set of steps that comes down to a walkway to the driveway. The proposed deck that we plan to do in the front is basically to ease the entry to the home, and it's not going to encroach past the existing house line. The house itself sits at 7.5 feet off the property line from the original build. And then the concrete steps, basically the new deck will end at where the concrete steps come out. So we're gonna remove the concrete steps and put a gravel base underneath. So the aesthetic look of the front of the house is not going to impact the neighborhood.
All right, so you're making it a little easier for, you said your parents, right?
Correct.
A little elderly, I'm sure, so with the steps, platform, step, platform.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense. I was out there the other day. It looks like it could use an upgrade to that effect for,
It's
there's no
probably
railings
the
right now.
original, that it's been the original since they bought the house in 1971.
Right. Well, I didn't see from the drawings, but I presume you can put full railings up,
Yes, yes.
hand railings for,
It'll all be pressure treated with the proper handrails as per
okay, yeah,
code.
4x4 posts. I see it now. Okay. You talked to the neighbors on either side? No complaints or issues? There's no other property you can buy to bring it into conformance? You're up against the street, obviously, so. Board members? Silvio?
No questions.
No question. No questions, thank you.
No questions.
No questions.
Okay. Is there any input from the public on this application?
I did just want to say,
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
my parents are elderly.
Just, I'm sorry, speaking to the microphone.
Both my parents are elderly and disabled, and you understand, they want to make it easier for them
course.
to get in and out of the house.
I can appreciate
That's all I
that.
want to say.
Yeah, it looks like there's about eight or nine steps to get up there, right?
It's like dropping off a cliff every time they need to
You
come
know,
out of the
it's-
house.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
steep.
So
My dad's already fallen down the stairs, and we don't want it to happen.
There's no railings on that.
I put a railing in a few months ago
Yeah.
to try and make it a little safer for them, but my dad's too proud to use it, so it's still not safe.
Okay. All right, look for a motion to close the hearing on this application.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. All right, and finally, number 6 tonight, application of Holton Rower, Yenham Studio LLC for a variation of section 156.2, seeking permission to install continuous 8-foot deer fence, 40-foot front property boundary, 20-foot from side and rear property boundaries. The property is located at 240 Washington Road, Carmel, New York, 10512, is known by tax map 54.1-26. Okay, good evening, you are?
Good evening. My name is Thomas Wright. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Holton Rower. I live at 24 Grove Street in Beacon, New York.
Okay, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
I don't think you need to crouch down, just aim it
Okay.
up to your mouth.
Sorry.
It should pick it up. Thank you. All right, so I guess there's, oh, that's the wrong letter. No, but, so what are they doing? They're taking this property over and,
He's taking the property over. He would love to spend a lot of time there, at least weekends, probably summers. Wants to spend time there with him, with his family. Unfortunately, and there's a memo in the application to this regard that he suffered from Lyme disease for 15 years, and he's pretty touchy about deer on the property. In addition, he has plans, hopes for extensive plantings on the property. He would like to do whatever he can to beautify the property.
it's ironic, when I was out there the other day, I looked in the field, there were about 10 deer frolicking and jumping all over the place, so.
He has a lot of tracks out there.
This is a letter from you, I'll just read it quickly because it's kind of short.
Thanks.
Dated March 12th. Dear Chairman Maxwell, and members of the Town of Carmel Zoning Board of Appeals, the Rower family is seeking a variance to allow an 8-foot high deer fence around their property at 240 Washington Road for 2 reasons. First, there has been Lyme disease in their family. Mr. Rower had the terrible disease for 15 years until he was miraculously cured. He was in terrible shape, and the debilitation was disastrous to his family and his work. Second, the family's planting extensive gardens which deer would find delicious and destroy. Sincerely, Thomas Wright. So I could see the reason for it. The only thing that I questioned, there were really no details that I,
Right.
you know, like, were there any samples or any?
Material samples of the
Yeah.
fencing? No, we haven't made a selection, or he hasn't made a selection on the deer fencing material. The posts would be steel posts. I think we had a 15-foot center on that. He hasn't made a final selection on the fencing material. I'd be happy to provide samples or multiple samples for your approval if there's,
I think one of the concerns is gonna be that if this is gonna be solid, or is it gonna be a little more see-through? Is it,
See-through.
yeah, they brought a photo which I can pass around. Really, the desire for him and on behalf of his neighbors is to make it disappear as much as possible.
I think that's what the
So,
concern is.
Really, here's one with some deer in the foreground where you can't even really see the fence. So the idea is to have something that disappears as much as possible. And in addition, there's notes in the plan and the detail that he will be doing extensive plantings in front of the fence to obscure the fence as much as possible.
It'll break up the line of the dark color or whatever it is.
Right.
Exactly.
So, like, is there a landscaping plan that, I don't remember seeing, but,
The site plan does indicate schematically the plantings along the,
Just pull some down.
so on the outside of the fence on Washington Road,
okay.
here, along here. And he intends to put plantings on the inside of the fence as well, here. But along Washington Road, here, there would be extensive plantings to break it up, as Mike said.
Right. I know there's some concern from the neighbors on the other side that, you know, might need to ask you to put some additional plantings there to help, you know, appease that neighbor on that side.
Absolutely, and, yeah, I mean, we can reach out to them and get specific
some
requests in terms of placing those plantings. Yeah, I apologize that we don't have a specific material in mind, but in terms of the design intent, it really is to make it disappear as
ghostly
much as
possible.
possible. But also to have something that is, you know, strong enough so that it's not falling down every time something bumps up against it.
I guess I question the 8-foot height. Is 8 feet totally necessary? I mean, is a 6 foot or
10
even a
feet.
7 foot?
It's actually 10 feet in the back. 4 feet in addition to the,
Actually,
Well,
Oh,
it
no,
says
no,
8
I'm
feet,
sorry.
Yeah, there's-
8 feet
sorry,
required,
there's a typo on
provided.
here. I
there's a
apologize.
typo.
There's
We're
a
asking-
typo on the provided.
Oh. No, this says 8-foot fence height front.
It should only be a 2-foot variance required where 6 feet is allowed, not 4 feet. And I apologize. I thought they were doing 4 feet in addition to the 6 to make it 10.
Yeah.
But it's actually supposed to be 2 additional feet on the bottom of the 2. You see that?
So for side and rear, 2 additional feet requested to make a total of 8 feet.
correct, John.
The application is correct, but the agenda has it 4 feet on both sides.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
8
Okay,
foot.
so
That's
that's
what I
what
thought.
I'm
It's an
saying.
8-foot fence
Right,
continuous.
is there studies or,
Yeah, it
What a
apparently,
deer can
yeah,
hide.
yeah, I mean,
you deal with it at the airport,
They
right?
would rather not.
Yeah, you need 8 feet, you know.
it seems
and
like
then
they
higher, but they don't, that's a good height.
You need more, really, but 8 is,
It's a good height. You know, if a deer wants to
Not too
jump,
intrusive.
10 feet
Yeah,
high,
Middle-
well,
Middle road.
if they're scared, they'll jump, right?
they'll do it, but
Okay.
The one with the red nose, really.
So I guess we'll go to the board members.
yeah, along the line with details and following the meshing, which we don't know, it's some type of rectangular deer meshing, that's nice.
correct.
The posts that are supporting are 10 feet apart, and they're not in any footing, any concrete. How would they possibly withhold any kind of weather? You know, the first nor'easter, these would bend over. They're very small diameter posts. And there's no bottom rail, there's no top rail. There's, I see some diagonals off of the main post, but as this is a long run, and I don't see a lot of detail on the run, you know, this is gonna be not lasting very long with that kind of detail. It's not that robust.
Well,
Just, this is my question.
I
It's
understand.
very, very.
Yeah, appreciate it.
It's only in the ground, driven into the soil. there's not a detail under the mesh. I know he's going to landscape, but you don't see, like, what's gonna prevent vegetation from growing up on this? Briar, understory. Looks like it's in a plush environment. I mean, I guess you can maintain that, but that would just add to helping bring this thing down fast. If it doesn't, you know, you show a top rail here in this rendition, but not on the detail. You know, it's wide open. I don't see any support.
Yeah, I think with that, there's a top. And
Rail?
Yeah, it should have it. It's a continuous, not a pipe, but a continuous cable across the top.
You have a tension cable on top.
Correct. Yeah. So you'd have the diagonals at the corner to create stability, but I think you also have the diagonals intermittently on the long run to maintain that tension.
Just.
But I appreciate your comments. Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, the deer would, if he went into it, he would push that right over.
Yeah.
When it's the vegetation and snow and ice. Just my only question is on the details. It's not a lot of details.
It would be a
yeah.
maintenance issue on their.
A lot of maintenance.
Yeah. Okay, Rose?
Thank you.
I have a question and a comment, I guess. One is, my comment is, I'm not really comfortable making a decision without seeing exactly what you're putting up. So I would almost move to hold this over. That's my first thing. The other question, I guess, that I have is, couldn't you move this fencing back by the house? I mean, to have a fence like this right on the road is a little offensive. I don't think, you know, it doesn't sound like, I'm sorry, it doesn't sound like an attractive fence to start with, and to have so much footage, you know, right on the road, doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, on the road, it's 40 feet back.
It is 40 feet?
Yeah.
'Cause
Put your finger on the road there.
Rose is on the second drawing.
it's not on the, it's not where the white fence is
The
now?
white fence is all the way out by the road,
Right,
and that's staying, and they're gonna maintain
40
that, and
feet.
make that nice again.
okay,
And then back 40 feet, they're gonna put this.
40 feet.
okay,
Here's the white fence.
right. I thought it was replacing the white
No.
fence.
No.
No, it's not
It's
replacing
back
it.
here, you know,
This
Rose?
diagram.
All right,
If you look at this drawing, Rose,
okay,
see 40-foot setback
Right.
on the front and then 20-foot on the side.
okay. So it is set back. All right,
Set
so,
back quite a ways. And
my-
on Washington, there is a bit of a rise
Yeah, I
up from
saw
the
that.
road level, so it's up and back.
up and back, all right. That was my one comment. But again, I think I'd rather hold this over because I'm not comfortable making a decision without knowing the exact materials and what this is gonna look like. I don't know how the
rendition.
rest of the board feels
No,
about it.
it's a good point. It's a good point.
Okay, Phil?
That's it.
I would have to agree with what Rose said. I would like to see what it looks like. I have a visual what it looks like, but I don't think that's enough for the neighbors and for the neighborhood to go on my visual. I've been wrong before, so my wife tells me.
Yeah, is it possible to get some, if we hold this over, get some materials that you can
Absolutely.
actually represent and show
Yes.
what you're proposing?
Photographs of something.
Yeah, I mean, these are representatives of, I'm sorry, Iggs, you have it. But what you want to see is the exact material.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a
proposed.
small piece of the post
Sure.
and a couple pieces of the wire, or maybe like an 8.5 by 11 mesh component.
No problem,
mock-up.
absolutely.
And a spec on the materials.
Yeah,
You know, is it
absolutely.
galvanized? You know, what's the gauge of the mesh? Is
They're-
it PVC coated?
Yep.
Is it just a dry, is it, you know, powder coated?
And it may be
Painted.
some additional construction detail.
Yeah, just to have a detail, and of all supporting, you know, tensioners, support posts,
Okay.
Cut sheets and
Yeah.
and material data.
better detail.
You guys agree?
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, since we are still open, I'll open it to the public, because there are some folks here tonight that would probably most likely want to speak, so I'll open it up to the public if anybody wants to come up, questions, concerns?
I just have a question.
Come on up. Just state your name and address for the record.
Sure.
Great.
My name's Andrew Clementi, and my address is 38 Reservoir Court,
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help
Yes,
you
I
God.
do.
Go ahead.
I just wanted, I had a question for the owner. If, I own the property behind this horse farm, and I just wanted to know if it had been surveyed and staked for this fencing.
Thomas, do you?
It has been surveyed,
Use the microphone.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
there is a very recent survey, I don't remember the exact date, it's part of the application package.
Okay.
As for the staking, I don't know about that,
Yeah,
but I
because
can
the
find
back-
out.
That there's an unusual boundary back there.
Yeah, it's
And,
been a regular
I had spoken to
piece
the
of
other
property.
owners several times, but I was kind of ignored.
This
Hard
side
to see
or-
here, I think. This
Yeah,
way.
so Reservoir
Something
Reports,
like
this
this.
up here,
Mhm.
and you're the first house here.
There's
This is
Washington,
Washington.
no. So I'm back here.
Okay, so there's some
Yeah,
jogs.
I have no objection to the deer fencing, that's not my point.
Okay.
All I wanted to.
Maybe I can
to
get your
assure
name and number, and I can,
Sure,
I
yeah.
can have him get
Yeah.
back to you about that.
Yeah, I just want to be assured that, there's a proper, property line.
Okay,
in the rear. Excuse me.
understood. Thank you.
Do you have a horse fence by you, sir?
I'm sorry,
Is the horse fence in by you, or no?
no,
Okay.
there isn't.
Some areas in the back do have horse fence, that's why I was.
That's
asking,
right.
'cause that would be the general area, if not necessarily exact.
Anybody else wish to speak on the application or have any questions, concerns? Okay.
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
Is this going to continue to be a horse farm, or are there other animals?
No, he's an artist, doesn't have any plans to have any animals.
No
on the farm.
animals?
No.
Okay.
Do they? just
Certainly
a-
not a horse farm.
Just a general knowledge, are they gonna put some money into the whole facility? I was out there
Yeah.
the other day, it's
Yeah.
overrun, beaten up. I'm
Yeah.
I'm hearing there's like squatters.
Yeah,
in the
no,
house and
he
whatnot.
No
he
more
has.
squatters, they're gone.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah, no,
No, that was a big battle. we
Squatters
had
don't have
Just
rights.
before your client purchased it.
yeah,
There were
I've
people
heard.
there that they couldn't get out.
Yeah.
Thank you, what?
There were people living in the house and the cottage that we couldn't get out, they couldn't get out, not me.
Wow.
Because it was you, you would've gotten them out.
So, yeah, they're gonna put some money into the
Yeah,
facility?
yeah, he loves the property, wants to spend a lot of time up there, and would at some point love to build another house up there. I mean,
It needs some TLC.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he understands that and wants to do the right thing.
All right, so I'll look for a motion to hold this application over till next month, and you'll be
So
supervised.
Okay.
All right.
So moved.
Second by Bill, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll go right through.
Yeah.
We need to, where is it? Meeting minutes from February 28th, 2019. I'll look for a motion.
Do you don't want to vote on any of the cases?
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's been a while. All right, so let's do that. I've already put it on the table, so,
All right, motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I have to
Okay.
recuse myself.
Recusal by Rose. We'll start from the beginning here. Application, Ronald Vance, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to grant with the condition that the two sheds are removed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Carried. Application number 2, Simpson, I'll look for a motion.
Do we have to put the same condition on this one?
They don't have sheds.
The sheds are on the other.
They're on the
Okay,
easement.
so, that's fine. Motion to grant.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Application number 3, De Jesus,
Motion to grant.
do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Application number 4, Abate, do I have a motion?
Motion to grant.
As amended.
As amended.
As amended.
Right.
Correct.
Thanks, Mike.
With the condition that they maintain the current screening?
Okay, we can
Is
put
that
that
okay?
in there.
Sure. As amended.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Application number 5, Luke, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to grant.
I think that's a tie, you owe him a beer. Seconded by?
I'll second it.
then.
All right, so
one of us did it, Neil one second.
It was moved by Phil and seconded by Sylvia.
Wonderful, Mr.
All
Chairman.
in favor?
Aye.
And application number 6, we
Was
held
held
over.
over.
So, all right. Our next meeting is April 21st. and we'll
21st.
See you all
Can't be
then.
the 21st, right?
I will not be here.
25th.
25th, April 25th.
Get that.
Rose took the time.
I'm sorry, April
Dawn took the time
25th,
to
I
put it
read
on
the
notes.
wrong line. Okay. Thank you all, have a good night.
Have a good night.